Welcome everyone! On this channel we talk about the beautiful and complicated life of nomads. So let's begin!
Hi everyone! For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Elena. I was born in Serbia, lived in France for 16 years and now live in the UK. I've been here for 7 years and I worked as a flight attendant for 10 years. Most of the people that I know have lived abroad at some point in their life, so that is something that I love talking about. And today we'll be talking about the Paris syndrome. So the Paris syndrome is an extreme form of cultural shock, mostly happening to Japanese tourists. In fact, it is a Japanese psychiatrist that came up with the term back in the 1980s at some hospital center in France. So it mainly happens to Japanese tourists. However, it does happen to people coming from other countries like Singapore and Korea or China. So what happens is that the expectations of those tourists are really high coming into Paris, and they end up being so disappointed that it can cause very severe symptoms sometimes. The main ones being anxiety and nausea, but it can go as far as hallucinations or tachycardia, so heart palpitations, and some of them end up even being hospitalized. So to an extent, it is caused by the positive representations of the city in the media and in the film industry especially. So people go to Paris expecting to see everyone wearing berets, everyone being dressed in haute couture and wearing high heels, and every other person carrying baguettes under their arms and music in the streets. And it is not the reality of Paris anymore, at least in my opinion. The reality of Paris in the 50s, but it no longer is that. So people end up being quite disappointed. So the Paris syndrome is not actually in the DSM, which is a diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. So that's a manual that a psychiatrist will use to diagnose their patients. However, it is a real symptom. It does happen, and every year people end up calling for help, and some of them do go to the hospital for it. So I think I think lots of people experience that to an extent getting to Paris, and I know quite a few that have experienced sort of a minor Paris syndrome. Myself, remember when I first went to see the Eiffel Tower. So that was when I was about 12 years old, 12 and a half, and my brothers and I went to see the Eiffel Tower. So my older brother had already been there, so he took us. And I remember coming out of the metro and just looking up and thinking, this is it, as in this big metal thing there, and that's it. Okay, so that was a big disappointment. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest, but I didn't find it beautiful. I didn't find it that high. I didn't find it that exceptional, and I know it sounds awful to say that, and it sounds completely wrong and the opposite what people want to hear, but it's the reality. Maybe I just don't get excited easily. I don't know. However, I did start loving Paris and enjoying Paris when I was in my 20s, and experiencing walking around Paris in all the streets and different small shops, and it's one of my favorite cities in the world. I love it, and it's so. Speaking of Paris in French, there is something that is the opposite of Paris syndrome, which is called the Stendhal syndrome. Stendhal was an author, a French author, and when Stendhal visited the Basilica of Santa Croce, where his idols were buried, he wrote, I'm going to read it to you, and it's really powerful thing, but you'll see. I'll let you discover it. So Stendhal wrote, I was in a sort of ecstasy from the idea of being in Florence, close to the great men whose tombs I had seen. Absorbed in the contemplation of sublime beauty, I reached the point where one encounters celestial sensations. everything spoke so vividly to my soul. I mean, that sentence, it just gives me shivers. Everything spoke so vividly to my soul. And then think about the place where you have been in your life. Is there such a place where you went to and you experienced that that feeling of extreme enjoyment, extreme pleasure, extreme overwhelming sensation? I have felt that in Père Lachaise for the same reasons that Stendhal is describing, so being so close to some of my idols like Baudelaire and Jim Morrison and Oscar Wilde, and just being so close to those legends that have changed the arts forever and have shaped our language and our ways of thinking and arts in general. I found it very, very overwhelming. But to another degree and to another human level, almost animal level, instinctive level, it was for me when I went to the Machu Picchu, and just a walk to go there, to get to the top, and just seeing the nature and see the structures and just being there felt so liberating. And I don't think I've ever felt like that in my life, and I probably never will, because there is no such other place. And it just felt, like Stendhal said, everything spoke so vividly to my soul. And I would love to hear about places that you have visited that made you feel like that made you feel so empowered, I guess, and so inspired. I think that's the best word to describe it, inspired. So I would love to, for you to comment in the descriptions down below, and just tell me about the places that you have been and you have experienced the Stendhal syndrome, but also where you have experienced the Paris syndrome. And was it in Paris or was it somewhere else? Because we do use that term now for other places than Paris. So I would really love to hear from you in the comments, but also if you liked this video, please do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. I will see you all again very, very soon. Have a lovely day. Bye.